In starting this podcast too, we're gonna do a quick introduction.
Okay.
Sometimes I like to go through a lengthy bio of sorts. Other times I kind of like to introduce and then kind of let you fill in the gaps.
Okay.
And considering we've known each other for a very long time, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just like do a quick little introduction and then
That's cool.
let you fill in from there. But you moved to Spartanburg in high school.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And when you were from where?
Miami.
Okay, from Miami.
But well, I lived in New York. Then I moved to Miami. Then Spartanburg.
Got it. And you've been in the jewelry space for pretty much your entire life.
Yeah.
And you originally got into it when you were 14.
Yeah. My family's been in the business for 200 years.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Very cool. And were their jewelry stores were in Miami or they
Yeah.
are
Miami, Greer, New York, Jersey, Bahamas, Dominican Republic. And that's it.
literally all of this?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just everybody, like wherever.
Yeah. And so you've now been in it since you were 14, but obviously 200 years of your family being in jewelry, which is super cool. But as it relates to kind of your progression over time, you opened this store, this location 3 years ago.
Yep.
But you had a store before that?
Yeah, so I started managing a jewelry store literally in high school.
Yep. In the mall though, correct?
Yeah, in the mall. Yep. I literally school was over, hour later, I'm in the mall selling jewelry. I was freaking 15, 16, with employees. It was, yeah.
Crushing it in high school.
Yeah, it was cool. It was also it was just drive at that point. There was no other reason behind it besides the fact that I actually liked and enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I did that, and then school, college, came back. I interned at a couple law firms in New York.
Okay.
And realized I was going to school to be a corporate lawyer, and realized that was not what I wanted.
Where'd
to
you
do.
end up going to college?
St. John's.
Okay.
Which shout out to the Johnnies. They're hopefully crushing it today. So they crushed it yesterday.
Big
So.
photo bracket.
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. I also.
Yeah. I honestly. I keep up with NFL more than anything.
The Dolphins.
No. I don't have a team.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't have a team because it takes the fun out of it. I'm a big Yankees fan.
Yeah.
I'm a big Miami Heat fan, and it literally makes my life miserable.
I was a Panthers fan.
Yeah.
And growing up, that was fun when Jake Dillon took us to the Super Bowl. But everything after that, Cam Newton era was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But aside from that,
2 years.
kind of sucked. Yeah. And even then, it was just all right, this doesn't seem like it's gonna last very long. It was just kind of fun hype, but it was not. At any point did I feel like the team was a true Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
I was just this is just a hype team.
Yeah.
And Cam's the hype man of
Yeah.
this team. But it's been super stressful over the years too. And this is also why in college I got into a fantasy league with some guys, and I went and studied abroad, and I stopped. I stopped changing players and moving things around the second week, and Gronk got injured. And I was like, all right, well, that's awful. Ended up coming in last, and I ended up not actually taking SAT drunk, which is what I was supposed to do for the person that came in last.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't ever play fantasy football ever again because I didn't follow through with that. So I have not played fantasy football since because of that lack of follow through, I guess you could say. I'm kind of a loser when it comes to that stuff, but I also to this day I feel bad about it. I said I would, and I also kind of made the suggestion that whoever loses needs to go take the SAT drunk.
Yeah.
All right, real talk. Whether I'm gearing up for a tough workout or preparing for an episode of the Cameron Brown Show, I need to be locked in. And that's where A-Bomb Energy comes into play. This stuff isn't just another energy drink. It was actually created by an Army Special Ops combat medic who wanted something better. Something that actually helps you think clearer, focus longer, and retain information, not just give you a quick caffeine spike. And I can tell you, it really works. I've been drinking A-Bomb before I hit the gym, and it's like flipping a switch. My focus is on point, my energy is steady, and I don't get that crash afterward. Same when I'm recording this podcast. I need to be sharp, engaged, and A-Bomb helps me stay in the zone. Plus, it actually tastes great. So if you're looking for something that gives you a real mental and physical edge, go check them out at abombenergy.com. And when you order, just type Cameron in the notes so they know that I sent you. Trust me, you're going to feel the difference.
Didn't do it. Wasn't gonna do it.
Dude, I crush it at fantasy.
I'm sure you do.
Dude, I'll tell you what, I had never played it. When I moved to South Carolina was when I started watching football for the first time. Because in Miami, like nobody really cares about football as much.
Yeah.
Everything's, well, everybody's doing a million things in Miami, so sports are there, but they aren't like, it's not a sports town.
Right.
And then New York, it's, the Giants were good for a little bit, and the Jets have always sucked. And it's not like, you're not rooting for Syracuse if you're in the city. But yeah, I started watching football when I got here to South Carolina, and then in college I did fantasy for the first time. And my first year I won it all. And I was like, okay. But also I was the kid in the back of the class, where I was not paying attention, and I was literally just playing fantasy all day long.
That's great.
And it became a numbers game to me. So now I started with a group of guys here in Greenville 3 years ago. 3 seasons so far. First season I got 4th place. Last year I won it, and then this year I came in 2nd.
Nice.
So
How many guys are in the group?
12.
Okay. Wow.
So it's a deep
Solid.
fantasy. Yeah, we're drafting guys that are hey, have you heard about this guy? Yeah, but I always get lucky.
It's not like he played high school football. He should be a part of our fantasy.
Yeah.
It's this guy actually knows what he's doing. He's probably in stats or he's a mathematician of some kind.
Yeah.
Knows his stuff.
It's unreal. I love fantasy.
Heck yeah. So you, after college, you obviously spent a couple of years, a little period of time considering the law route. And you also mentioned earlier too that you always wanted to have your own store, but also you always wanted to do everything too. You obviously are doing a lot of stuff in the shop. You have the support and help of people, of course. But as it relates to your skill sets over the years, or something in particular that you enjoy doing more than others in the business?
I think I've gone through an evolution, if you will, in the business. So when I started off in high school, making sales, the way I see the industry, you have your mall stores, which honestly is junk jewelry. It's cheap, but it's volume, and it's all margins, and you're pushing it, and every sale is like a hunt. And you're competing with other salespeople, and it's commission based and all this. So that was really exciting and my favorite thing to do then. Then from there, it was selling loose stones, just loose diamonds. That transitioned into that. That was fun, and the same thing, I had a drive for that, and it was just a rush every time I did that. And then the what I consider junk, just cheap jewelry, I kind of was over that. And then from then on, it went custom. So the high-end custom route.
Which is your main focus now, right?
Yeah, that's primarily what we do. And then from then, the last probably year and a half or 2 years, transitioning, still doing primarily custom, but also the second thing, high-end watches.
Got it.
And that is I love it. It's really cool because I've been able to dive into a little bit of every single aspect of the jewelry industry, and a lot of people don't realize when you walk into most jewelry stores, they're typically good at one thing. When you go into your mall store, all they are worried about is turnover of inventory. A lot of your mom and pop stores are worried about repairs, appraisals, service stuff. And then you have stores that are only high-end watches, stores that are only custom jewelry. Just custom shops where you come in, they don't have showcases, they don't have anything, it's just you sitting down with the designer and working on a piece of jewelry. I wanted to encompass all that, and on top of that, we cut diamonds for customers. That's something honestly that has been really cool that I love. Is we were working on this crazy 10 carat $1 million diamond not too long ago, and we were.
It's wild to have all that at your fingertips.
Yes, it is. Trust me, people come in here all the time, and they're does this not make you nervous? And I'm like, to be honest with you, I have to treat this like it's just like material.
Yep.
I can't think about the things that I'm handling in dollar signs, because then I would make mistakes. Then I would get nervous, drop something, think like, oh crap, if I tighten this prong too much, I'm going to crack this $50,000 stone. And then, so yeah, I don't think about jewelry in terms of dollars or anything like that. I just think about it as a material that I work with. And yeah, like with that stone, we literally were working with a diamond mine, like directly. This isn't like, oh, I'm going to a wholesaler, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, we're gonna mine that raw diamond for that specific customer, and we're gonna design the diamond the way that she wants it. So like even doing stuff like that, like it's a whole other level.
It's a completely different level.
Oh yeah, it's stuff where like if you walked into, any big box store, like they would never even think of that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
They also probably, frankly, like it's not their model, but also at the same time, the amount of thought and effort that goes into connecting with that mine and connecting with those individuals. It's just, I feel like it's another level.
It is.
Like it's doing the hassle of doing.
Yeah, your big box stores again they're worried about inventory turnover, and so I tell people all the time. They tell me, oh, like I had this horrible experience at the store, blah blah. I'm like, listen, you can't blame that salesperson. They literally got a 10-day crash course on how to make margins, sell jewelry, and make sure they get their commission at the end of every week. And that's what they're worried about.
So would you suggest that people are, obviously if somebody is looking for a custom ring, come to Diamond Gallery?
Yeah.
But just somebody looking for jewelry in general, would you steer them away from a mall?
Yeah, typically I would. Here's something else that I tell people all the time is think about this. So if I'm making one piece for you, I am not worried about if, let's say, a ring weighs 6 grams.
Right.
I'm not worried about that ring weighing 5 or 4 grams because I'm making one. So those 2 grams or gram or whatever, it's not going to make a difference to me at the end of the day. But if I'm like one of the manufacturers for those big box stores and they're like, hey, so-and-so just placed a 10,000 ring order for this specific design. And they're thinking, okay, 10,000 rings, we save a couple grams, that's 20,000 grams. That's like well over $1 million. And so they just saved $1 million by shaving a few grams off the design of that ring. But now what does that do long term? Rather than that ring lasting 30, 40, 50 years, you're going to get 5, 10 years out of that ring. So it's little things like that that a lot of people don't think about.
Right.
It's just, like there is a substantial quality difference between a mall store and like a custom or like just a mom and pop store.
There's things like that like a normal person would not have any clue, right? They have no idea. And obviously that takes years of seeing things and learning things and gaining knowledge and experience too. So it's really nice to know that that's something that people can get here specifically. But also if I'm going to spend whatever an engagement ring might be, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, whatever you're spending on an engagement ring, more than that I'm assuming in a lot of cases. Yeah. But if you're spending that amount of money, obviously you want to make sure you go to the right spot and get that knowledge too. As it relates to lab-grown diamonds, I'm going to ask lab-grown diamond question.
Go for it.
Lab-grown versus real diamonds. I've had this internal kind of battle of sorts as of late because we're kind of in the process right now of working through all this. Yeah. And the lab-grown side of things, just for me, outsider looking in, seems pretty similar. To be honest. Yeah. And obviously half the quarter of the cost in some situations. Yeah. What are your thoughts just on lab grown versus real diamonds? Because some of the guys are like, why would you ever eat a lab grown diamond? I'm like, why not? What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I'm laughing because so the jewelry industry right now in this moment, it's funny we're doing this podcast because you genuinely, I don't think you could have picked a better moment for us to approach this topic. Like if we would have done it a year ago, it'd be a very different answer than the one I'm about to give you. So essentially, to the consumer, lab-grown diamonds are a great alternative. Obviously, they're not exactly the same as natural diamonds, but they are very, very close. Right. I prefer selling natural all day long. The margins are higher in lab, but right now it's damaged the jewelry industry to where it is we're going almost through a culling, if you will, where a lot of jewelry stores probably in the next year or two are going to start closing down because they've transitioned a lot of their business to lab grown. And the problem is when lab growns first came out, which was like 2015, 2016 was when they started to actually hit stores. And initially lab grown diamonds were never intended to be in jewelry.
Right.
It was purely for manufacturing. It was just a cheaper alternative, but as things go, somebody was like, hey, why not put this in jewelry? So they started off as like, I don't know, 80% of the cost of a natural one.
Right.
So you're like, okay, it's kind of high, but you're saving 20%, why not? And then it stayed around 80% for a while, and it dropped to 70, then to 60. Stayed at 60 for a long time. And then I'd say in the last year to year and a half, it's been a race to the bottom. And it is nuts, honestly. It is it's genuinely causing concern in the jewelry industry because here's the reality. Yes, again, for the consumer, I sell a ton of labs here. I sell labs, I sell naturals. I don't tend to guide anybody one way or the other because my job isn't to sell you something, it's to make you something.
Yep.
And so whatever works for your situation, I just closed this out with a customer last week. We spent 3 months debating natural versus lab. He ended up going with lab.
Yeah, could have done a really good podcast on this, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The 3 months conversation.
Yeah, it was nuts, honestly. I was like, oh, finally. But yeah, what ended up basically was just we went with lab because he could get a nicer, bigger stone for less money than he could its natural counterpart. But all that to say, yeah, it's great for the consumer. It kind of does take away a little bit of that I worked hard for this is something special, when you can buy this massive diamond for $1,500. And I think that's my only, from a consumer standpoint, my only downside with lab-grown diamonds is, I always tell people this, getting married is a pretty big deal. Hopefully you only do it once. If you do it more than once, it is what it is. But
you'll be here for the second and third.
yeah, I'll be here for all of them, no worries. But it's supposed to be one of the biggest decisions you make in your life because it's literally you're deciding, hey, I'm spending the rest of my life potentially with this person.
Right.
So my thing is, why would you want something that's cheap and mass produced and not as it didn't, I don't want to say hurt as much, but essentially that's it. It didn't hurt your wallet as much to represent that.
Yeah.
Because while I know us as guys, because I think that's really nice about I'm in my late 20s now, and I get a lot of these guys in here, and they see me and they get that fresh breath. Oh yes, this isn't some girl who was behind a counter trying to pressure me into something. And I'm listen, dude, I get it.
The females are also really good at pressuring too.
Oh yeah.
I don't go into, for the record, I don't go into a jewelry store often, but the one time that I did within the past 2 years, I somehow bought my girlfriend $1,300 necklace and a new watch for myself. I was getting a new watch for myself, and I bought her a necklace that was more expensive than a watch. And I was like, I just wanted something that looked nice. I was I ended up spending whatever I spent on. I was like, that just happened. She just sold me it. And I walked out being I just got pushed into that deal.
And that happens because automatically, or guys, we're always subconsciously trying to please a woman.
100%.
So when you have a salesperson that's a woman pressuring you into something, it your walls come down much quicker and you feel much more pressure than you do with a guy.
Absolutely.
So yeah, a lot of guys come in and they're very happy to see me, and I also am very black and white about it because I tell people all the time, hey, if you shop with me, great. If you go elsewhere, that's fine. This is about finding what's best for you, not about me pushing you into something so that I can make a sale. So yeah, the labs, they right now it has essentially devalued a large part of the jewelry industry, which is engagement rings.
Right.
They're starting to be used in fashion jewelry. Don't get me wrong. Like a lot of what you see these big rappers with are lab-grown diamonds, despite what they're saying, and that's because you see a chain that's like, if it was natural, it'd be $500,000, but they can get the same thing made for 60 grand labs.
Right.
So that's a big difference. Right. And so, yeah, what it's done is it's devalued a large part of the industry, and a lot of the large diamond manufacturers are genuinely concerned because they are, a lot of people talk about De Beers and how it holds diamonds and all of this. Yes and no.
Yeah.
It does to an extent, but I promise you, De Beers doesn't have like warehouses just of diamonds sitting there. It's more of they produce on a yearly level, and they predict what their production must be based off of last year's demand. And so that continues to go. And so a lot of these large stakeholders in diamond production are really worried because last year they sat on a lot of inventory because of lab-grown diamonds, and they've noticed that the consumer's mind has shifted to where they're worried about the look and not about the meaning behind the look. And so, yeah, it's, I think if you called around 10 different jewelers, they'd tell you 10 different things, and you'd also get 10 different prices when it comes to labs.
I'm sure, and I'm not to hate on the jewelry industry, but I'm just gonna hate for just this for whatever reason. And obviously you have to sell diamonds, and you have to get people to want to buy diamonds. And so for years, people have been almost not manipulated into thinking they need to spend a certain amount of money on a ring, though. But the 3 months of your earnings has always been like the standard, I feel like, and that for whatever reason got locked into a lot of females' brains. That a man should spend 3 months of his earnings on your ring at least. Yeah. And for a lot of guys, that's like, well, that's a substantial amount of money. Yeah. And you're kind of like, is that really what I should be spending on a wedding ring? Yeah. So I think it's kind of like the industry's way of molding people's and marketing people in the direction they want them to go in, and really pushing them to spend as much money as possible on that ring. To your point, though. Obviously, if it's with that special person that you're with forever, it should be very unique and very valuable to that individual and to that relationship. But I'm just with lab grown too. I think the ethical side of it, which we can talk about the ethical. So the ethical side of it is not being mined by a young individual in an African country, right? That's the ethical side of it. But the other part of it too is probably a lot of them are being made in China now, and what some might refer to as sweatshops. Once again, I don't know all these things. I'm just throwing this out there. That's probably what's going on.
Yeah.
So
there's so that is also like in the industry we talk about that movie Blood Diamond.
Yeah.
And
it's a great movie. But
it's an amazing movie. That existed at one point in the industry, but it is a much older view of diamond mining than you think. I think if a lot of people did actual research on natural diamond mining and realized the hundreds of thousands of people all over the world, like those small communities that are supported by diamond mining.
Yep.
And so like I think it was shortly after Blood Diamond came out, the Kimberley Act was passed. And so that essentially created regulation for natural diamond mining. So what you think of as a blood diamond, those conditions are, I don't want to say they're completely gone because I'm not at every mine checking, but I would say 90 to 95% of the mines do not operate like that anymore. It is much more ethical, and it's much more industrialized than most people think. It's just there is no movie about how great diamond mining is for the local communities, but there was an amazing one with Leo.
If it wasn't for the movie, the vast majority of people
would have no idea.
They also probably wouldn't be buying lab-grown diamonds.
Yeah, and so my thing with the ethical side of lab-grown diamonds is I feel like those arguments are ideologically extreme, because if you're like, I'm an all or nothing guy.
Yep.
And so if you're going to say lab grown diamonds are more ethical, then let's talk about, are they actually more ethical? Because here's a reality: it takes more natural resources to make a lab grown diamond than it does to mine a natural one. And then are we talking about the fossil fuels that are used to create them, to create the electricity? And then what about the rare earth metals that are used to create the chambers that grow these lab grown diamonds? And where they're being grown and how they're being cut and all of these things.
You obviously don't drive a Tesla.
Actually, so I have a Hummer EV, and my wife drives a Tesla. But all I'm saying with that, like, I don't have a stance on is it ethical, not ethical, because I think if you get down to anything, like, nothing that I'm wearing is truly ethical.
It's truly ethical.
Yeah, like if we're gonna do the whole ethical route, then you better tell me that they were singing Kumbaya when they were making the raw materials that went from like the laces on your shoes to the hat you're wearing, all of that.
Every bit of it.
Yeah, because I'm just like that, like, okay, so, they weren't mined naturally, but the rare earth metals that were needed to create those chambers were mined. And realistically, that is much more of a problem right now than diamond mining is.
Right. And I would speculate that, considering how expensive a diamond typically is, that's why there's so much pressure on the industry. Whereas like your clothes are not tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So there's not as much of a focus on it, but it is, to your point, everything is technically unethical.
Yeah.
If you really want to dive
if you that's my thing. Like if you go down that rabbit hole,
good luck getting out.
Yeah, and I like when customers bring that up, I'm like, okay, that's fine if that's what you think. Like, again, I'm not here to guide you one way or the other.
Right.
I'm here to provide a service, to make something for you, and if that's what you want, I'll do it.
So be it. What other issues do you see or like confront on a daily basis or experience on a daily basis with clients? Like what are the things that they bring your attention in this space?
You mean like
between blood diamonds or
I got you.
or lab grown, is there other big issues in the jewelry space that you have to
I think there's a lot of misconceptions.
Okay.
I think that a lot of it, it's like you find the one negative individual and then that paints a broad stroke over everybody in the industry.
Right.
Have there been some very shady jewelers over the years? For sure.
But there's
100%. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, there's shady realtors. There's shady, like everything.
Definitely shady realtors.
Yeah,
I'm getting so many calls right now from realtors, and I'm like, yeah, stop calling me. This is getting absurd. Like, they're trying to go around my back and talk to my girlfriend, and I'm like, don't talk to her. This is not. No, you're talking to me.
It's nuts. So there's shady everything. So I think a lot of people, like, I'll have somebody drop off a ring and say, hey, well, how do I know you're not going to swap my diamond out? And so usually what I do is I stop them there and I say, I'll tell them two things. One, look around. I've got like $4 million worth of jewelry sitting here. I promise you, I don't need grandma's 1 carat diamond. It's not going to make a difference in my life. I'm not going to ruin my reputation over that. Right. Two, I tell them, hey, this is my process. It gets locked up every night, blah, blah, blah. But on top of that, I think there are a few people in your life that you want to make sure you have a trusting relationship with. Typically a lawyer, dentist, and jeweler. Once you find a good one that you trust, stick with them. Yeah. I think, and that's something that I usually recommend to my customers, like, hey, listen, realistically, if you don't feel comfortable leaving this here or me doing this for you, then honestly, I'd much rather you find somebody that you do feel comfortable with, just because it's not worth it. There is no sale, no amount of money that's worth me getting accused of doing something, especially like, I'm very much like customer service is everything to me. Like, I literally have hopped on planes to deliver rings to people to make sure I meet their deadline. And so if I'm going to do that, I also will lose sleep if I don't treat somebody right. And so I want to make sure that I don't even leave the opportunity for that to happen.
Are all diamonds coated?
No.
Lab grown or coated?
Not even all lab grown.
But some are, I guess.
Yeah, so essentially they're serialized, they're laser engraved on the girdle of the stone, which is the thinnest edge of the stone. They are serialized once they have been graded. And that's something that even once they've been graded, you have to request the grading agency or the grading organization to go ahead and laser inscribe that diamond.
Right.
Small diamonds are not, it's not cost effective to laser inscribe a small diamond.
Okay.
It's typically like a carat and above, and then there are lab grown ones that just aren't, and those are typically the ones that have been are even cheaper in production. They don't even want to spend the money on inscribing them.
Cool. That was a comment that was made to us, is that they are they're inscribed, engraved. Every single one of those lab grows is. So we actually, when we give it to a jeweler in the future, they will actually know. If you know your number, you know your serial number on the diamond, then you actually know. So that was another argument that was being made for it when we were going to meet with those individuals. Yeah. And it was just kind of like, I guess it's a good point. But
that's a salesy thing, to be honest.
It was certainly a salesy thing.
It's like, to be honest with you, it's if you look at your fingernail, it's like if you were to write 10 numbers on the edge of your fingernail. Yeah. It's like, okay, so sure, that's laser inscribed. Are you gonna be able to check right then and there? You're not, because you need a very specific microscope to be able to see that inscription.
You need to remember your serial number.
Yeah, and so
you had that written down.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I think for insurance purposes, it's great. Right. And for identification purposes, I understand, but I don't know if it's as practical as a lot of stores make it out to seem.
Got it.
Just because nobody's checking that in the moment.
Gotcha. So on to the watches. I saw the Rolexes earlier. What all are you selling? I saw the Omegas, I saw the Rolex. I don't know what else I saw here, but what all are you selling on the high-end watch side of things?
So we do Omega, Rolex, AP, Pateks. I'd say those are about the high-end ones that we focus on. We do some Breitling. Omega and Breitling, they're nice in tag as well, but honestly, 90% of our business is in the high-end watches are going to be Rolex, and then the rest of that 10% is going to be AP and Patek. Cool.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to go and ask it, do you have a favorite kind of watch?
I do.
Maybe you don't want to say it because you sell them all, but you're like...
No, I mean, so I think... So the big three, right? AP, Patek, and Rolex. I generally don't think you can go wrong with any of those. I think Rolex is like the Mercedes.
Okay.
They have a good product. They have a reliable product. It's nice. It's luxury. But there are higher levels than just that.
Right.
So, with a Rolex, as expensive as it could get, it's probably going to be around 100. If you do what's considered off catalog Rolex, and those can be 150, 200. Right. But that's about as expensive as it gets. Once you get into the APs, you can get to the 300, 400, 800,000 range. And then once you get into the really high-end Pateks, then you're talking 10 million, 15 million, 20 million. So, there's different levels to it.
I think it's wild. I've seen on social media. You see those videos, you're like, this is a $10 million watch. You're like, how did that watch get to $10 million?
Yeah.
So I guess a lot of that is materials, the diamonds they're using, the gold, whatever it is, including the watch. But is it also it's a rarity sort of thing as well? It's sort of scarcity of sorts?
Yeah, so for instance, a lot of people that aren't collectors or watch guys don't understand, for instance, why I don't know. So I'm wearing a Rolex Daytona. It's a white gold Rolex Daytona. I think Rolex probably advertises this one on their website, if I'm not mistaken, for maybe 23 to 25,000, something like that. I really haven't checked, but just eyeballing it. This watch right now is reselling for 45 to 50,000. Reason being, Rolex makes 1 million watches a year. Sounds like a lot, but when you take, I've done the math once, you take the amount of authorized dealers they have in all the different countries and everything, what it equates to is each dealer gets 1 to 2 watches of each model per year.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's not, a lot of people are like, oh, Rolex just doesn't want to ramp up production. And it's like, no, that's not it. It's so specialized to make these watches.
Right.
So when Rolex releases a watch, when they ship that watch out of their factory, like, it's perfect. There's nothing like, perfection is the standard.
Yep.
And so on average, most Rolexes take about 9 months to make.
Really?
Yeah, from start to finish, like all of the parts that go into it and everything, it's about a 9-month production period for each watch. And so if you think about that, and you think about, like, for instance, I think Rolex has on staff, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like 8 to 12,000 watchmakers.
Okay.
Sounds like a lot, but it's not. Not to like.
And Rolex, are they, so 8, 10,000, 12,000? Where are those individuals located?
Geneva.
They're all in Geneva then?
Yeah.
Okay.
The ones that are, they're all produced there.
Okay, got it.
And then, they're sent all over the world.
Yep.
But yeah, you can't keep up with the production.
Right.
Or with the demand, sorry. So that's why, like, if you go into a Rolex right now, any Rolex authorized dealer, we shortcut it, we say AD. You go into a Rolex AD and you say, hey, I want a Daytona, and they will laugh at you. Because they're like, okay, that's great. How much money have you spent here?
Yep.
None. Okay, get on a list. The reason I sell so many Rolexes is because I have clients that have, the watches I have here, they've never seen at a Rolex store. I mean, literally, so my business partner at the store in New York, he went into a Rolex AD and he had on the Rolex Pepsi, which is a GMT Master 2. It's a blue and red Rolex, so they nicknamed it the Pepsi. And he went into an AD, and the manager there was like, how'd you get that watch? And he was like, oh, I know somebody, blah, blah, blah. He didn't tell him who he was, because that's not going to help anything. And she was like, can I see it? We haven't had one in over 2 years. And they're a Rolex store, and they haven't seen one in
New
2
York,
years.
too.
Yeah, New York.
You'd think all like the high-end watches would be like in the big cities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you'd think they would all find a way to like a New York or a Boston or an LA.
The problem is, like, think about the clientele in New York. Think about the amount of millionaires and billionaires that live in New York.
Yep.
And think about how all of them want Rolexes.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then, like, who do you pick? When you get 2 of these a year, who do you pick? And so, and on top of that, to add, to compound to the problem, then you have, not me per se, but guys who are bigger in the industry than me, have these under the table deals with a lot of these ADs where it's like, because these ADs aren't just Rolex stores, they're jewelry stores that have the license to sell Rolex.
Right.
And so they'll carry Omega as well, and Breitling, and Omega and Breitling don't sell as well, or Tag, they don't sell as well. So they have Omega, Breitling's just sitting there, dead inventory.
Yeah.
So what do they say? They say, hey, here's the deal. You give me that Daytona that comes in, and I'll buy 30 grand of Omegas from you. So now, and then that guy's turning around reselling it.
Yep.
And so it's a very large problem. The reality is there a solution? I really don't think so. I think it's just the nature of the beast.
Right.
Because, people even float the idea around of like, oh, Rolex taking back all licenses, which, by the way, they're going to. Sooner or later, they're ramping up to do that right now. But as they do that, then Rolex is just going to control the market.
So then that's what I'm saying. Then, but they're not even, you can say control the market like they're a monopoly, but like they are the creators of it.
Yeah, they're the creators, but they also will control the resale aspect of it, which granted, guys like me will always be around because if there's a way to make money, people are going to make it, make it happen. So all Rolex will end up doing, like they started this not too long ago, their certified pre-owned program.
Okay.
So essentially what that is let's say you go in, Rolex sells you this watch, and then you say, hey, you know what, kind of thinking about selling it. Rolex says, okay, we'll buy it back from you. I don't know what their buyback, like money-wise, is compared to market prices on these watches, but they'll buy it back from you. Then they go service it, polish it up, put it for sale. So if this is reselling for 45 or 50,
Yeah.
because it'll have the Rolex certified pre-owned like stamp, just like at a dealership where they've inspected the car and all this, instead of selling it for 45 or 50, they're gonna sell it for 60.
Got it.
And it's like insane. I've literally had customers that have gone and spent $5,000-$6,000 more on the same exact watch that I could have gotten to them because they wanted the certified pre-owned.
Did it happen a lot though, where somebody comes in that was a good customer and they're like, I want this watch, and you were basically figuring it out? You're gonna reach out to me
Every day.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's literally all I do.
Yeah.
Every day is we're sourcing watches.
Are you sourcing from? Is there a group that you reach out to, or are there certain individuals you like to go to?
Yeah, I have dealers
Okay.
all over the country, all over the world that I work with. Guys who in Asia have like crazy underhand deals with a lot of the ADs there. Like one of my best clients here, with the new reference Panda had come out, I think it was like around this time last year.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to have the first one in the entire world available of that new model. But it came with, hey, you can buy the watch, but my supplier in Asia is making me spend $50,000 on all these tags, Breitlings, Omegas,
Yep.
for me to have that first allocation. And so then and my client was willing to, and I was like, listen, man, like, I know you got money. I know you want this watch, and it'd be really cool for you to be the first one in the world with this new model, but I'll be honest with you, like, whenever a new model comes out, the premium that people pay is insane.
Well,
And
that's with anything, right?
yeah, but with watches, it's bad. I mean, he would have paid roughly $85,000 for that watch. That same watch is selling for about 35 right now. So losing 50 grand just to have that first watch.
Right.
If you've got like FU money, then
Well, I guess
great.
at a certain point you don't care anymore. But
Yeah.
at the same time, if you are truly like money conscious, but like money literate, you're probably like, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and that's my thing. Like, don't get me wrong. There are guys that don't
Yeah.
care. But I've found that typically, if you have money like that to spend, it's not because you're stupid.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You're not spending it like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know for a fact it's going to depreciate
Yeah.
that rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just like with getting a new car too. You get a new car and you're like, damn, like it's worth $10,000 less than it was yesterday.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah, and
going off the
now,
lot.
I will say the nice thing about watches is they are amazing in that any toy that guys like,
Yep.
planes, boats, cars, guns. Well, guns I think is a little different. I think they stay about the same value for the most part. But for the most part, a lot of the toys that guys like end up depreciating like crazy. Watches is one of those things that they really don't. Like I had a customer who bought a Daytona for 30 back in 2019 or 2020, and they just sold it recently for 36.
Cool.
So made $6,000, got to enjoy it for years.
Yeah. Wasn't there a period where, I think it was like the 2019-ish era, where people were buying watches and they were appreciating like 100%?
Yeah, so-
a
and-
year or two long period.
Don't get me wrong, if you get the call from an AD and they offer you a watch, chances are it could appreciate 100%
Yep.
right on the spot because of resale value versus retail value.
Right.
So like with the Daytonas, like a Daytona is listed for like 15, like a stainless Daytona is like 15,800 on Rolex's website.
Right.
You get the call, you pick up that Daytona, you can sell that Daytona for 30 that same day. I will happily pay you 30 for it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, no problem.
New side gig.
Yeah, good luck. I had a customer that bought a Daytona from me because he had been on a wait list for 5 years and never got a call. The guy's a millionaire.
Yeah.
And never got a call.
How do you know though if it's, well, you know if it's real or not.
Yeah.
You do. But if I were like, hey, I'm in a side project, here we go,
Yeah.
we're gonna start buying Daytonas, and people are like, these guys sort of approach me like, oh, I've got these Daytonas to sell you. How do you know, aside from going to an authorized dealer,
Yeah.
if it is actually truly?
So that's the thing with these super clones.
Yeah.
It is insane how good they've gotten. And it's the same reason why you don't see every jewelry store selling Rolexes or AP or Patek, because the intricacies of you being able to tell the difference between the real thing and the fake thing they've gotten so good. Like essentially what ends up happening is this, right? Let's say a new model comes out where they've changed a few things. Somebody buys that from an AD, from a reseller, whatever. They take it to a factory in China. They say, hey, scan this thing, open it up, literally deconstruct it, and replicate every aspect of it.
Exactly.
As fine-tuned as possible. Now, there are things, little things that guys like me pick up on. Like the weight is slightly off, because here's a reality. Rolex patents a lot of the materials they use, the processes they use. Rolex, AP, all watch companies, but primarily those big three.
Yeah.
And so by doing so, it makes it next to impossible to make it exactly the same. You really can't, because like Rolex uses a specific grade stainless steel in their watches that you're just not going to be able to find.
Right.
Or you're not going to be able to use. It won't make it affordable anymore to replicate the watch. Because the reality is, on a super clone, somebody's probably willing to spend $500 to maybe $1,500. But if you tell them, hey, this is a $4,000 or $5,000 super clone, I mean, if you're spending $4 or $5,000, just buy a cheap Rolex.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So they have to make it affordable for the end consumer. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people that get burned big time. Again, it goes back to, if you find a jeweler that you trust, work with them. That's really the backbone of a lot of my watch clientele, is they know, like, hey, he's looking out for me.
Yeah.
He's gonna give me a good deal, and everything that comes from him is kosher.
Cool.
And I always tell my customers, hey, feel free, literally take it to Rolex, take it wherever. And that's really the only way of making sure a watch is legit and not a super clone. Taking it to Rolex, they can look up the serial number in their database. We've got access to it. They're pretty expensive, but I think it's like $400 or $500 to check that. But we can. The other thing is, in reality, like somebody like me, I don't need to go that far. Funny enough, it's also a very common scam that a lot of people do, is they target stores like mine, where they see all these Rolexes, they buy a replica, they come in, kind of stake out the place, see what Rolexes I have on display, buy the replica, come in. Like, I literally had this happen a week and a half ago.
I'm sure you can kind of see it coming from a mile away, though.
Yeah, typically it's like 19-year-old kid comes in with a $20,000 Rolex. I'm like, unless this is like daddy's money, things just don't add up.
Right.
And so this kid came in. He had a Kermit. It's a black and green Rolex. I had one in the display, and he was like, "Oh, do you mind? Can I take a look at it?" He's like, and he takes his off, and he's looking at it. He's like, "Oh yeah, they're exactly the same." Blah blah blah. And then he hands me back the replica
On the spot.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, that one's mine. This one's yours. And he was like, "Oh, sorry, yeah, I had no." And I'm like, okay, like I wasn't gonna make a big deal out of it. One, I had a very long day, so I was just like, I'm not about to call police and make this the whole thing right now. And I caught him. It's not a big deal. Like, he can fool somebody else, but it's not gonna be me.
Yep.
But I literally, like, when I tell you, I spend probably 3 or 4 hours a day just looking at replicas, just to make sure that I stay on top of things.
Got it. So that just died, by the way. So
Okay.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So we might wrap it up right there,
Okay.
honestly, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's
but I really appreciate you hopping on and joining the show and diving into all of the above. It was super cool. That's the most unfortunate thing ever. But
Actually, I have extra batteries. I don't know if it makes
it's literally it's plugged in.
Oh,
like
okay, I gotcha.
that's what I'm saying. And I don't know why it keeps doing this. Sometimes it does,
crazy.
other times it doesn't. But I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, I guess we're gonna stop at
Yeah.
55
No,
minutes.
yeah,
So which is kind of where we.
Oh, is that
roughly that
Listen,
time?
dude, I could talk.
What
about
time is it right now?
It's 5:55.
Yeah, so literally like right at 55.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I can talk about stuff like this forever.
Well, I could also go on for hours, which is why I love this. But I'm like, this fucking equipment
Yeah.
killed me.
Yeah,
So,
that's nuts.
yeah. But at least I warned you before.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's going to happen. So, but it did happen last night. We went for 2 hours straight, and it kept going.
Oh, really?
And I was like, this thing's going to turn off at some point. So, well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Thanks so much for joining the show,
Yeah.
and thanks for having me.
Yeah, that was fun.
But yeah, I could literally do this for hours, which is unfortunate.